There we are.
We're there.
All right.
I always love
Yay.
this go live. Did it go? It did. Absolutely. Hi, Jen.
Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I need to sing happy birthday. I'm not going to. I'm going to save the rest of the world my horrible singing voice. But happy birthday. This is Jen's birthday week.
Yes.
And she's decided that we are just worth it to pop in on a birthday week and still talk about fun author things. So I'm
Well,
just,
of course.
of course.
It's fun. It's fun to do.
When you love what you do, it's not really a job.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely job parts of everything, right? There's no matter what you love, there's parts of it that you don't love.
Right.
That's why we have vacation. But but yes, it is for the most part. It's nice to have more of your job that you love than the parts that you don't love. So we're very fortunate to be able to do that.
We are. I mean, we chatted before about how growing up, you always wanted to do something like in the industry. And
Yeah.
who would have thought that you could build a business around something like this that you love? And we're proof that
Right.
you can. If you love something enough, you can create a business around it.
Yes. And of course, technology has changed. I say this to my kids all the time. It's so hard to know what you might want to do because technology is changing. You might want to do something that doesn't even exist right now. I mean, what we do now, the way we do it, was not like this 20 years ago. It was centered around New York. It was very physical locations, physical books. And I love that now technology has really opened it up so anybody that has a powerful message can share it with the world. And I think that's fantastic. So that's awesome. We get to be part of that.
I know, it is awesome. And I also know that this community is a community, like literally.
Yes.
When I decided to write a book, it was I said, what's one piece of advice that you would tell me that I should do? And they said, go have coffee with an author. And I'm like, oh, do I know who and I did. There's a Kevin Gibson is a local author here. Here in the Louisville market. He writes about a lot of amazing like Louisville eateries and like the ghost stuff, like just cool things about Louisville. And he also writes for the one of the papers that he has in the past. And I sat down and had coffee with him and like just fell in love with the vibe and his energy. And he had a book launch. I went to support him. That was really fun. Yeah. And it's just, I was going to say a sisterhood, although Kevin is not a sister, but that's okay. It's part of the sisterhood. It's a community. It's like a family.
Community. Yes.
It's a family. And
yes.
I think that's why I love our chats every Wednesday, because I feel like we get to give back to our family.
It's our people. You know, when writers' conferences were only in person and I would go to a big national one every year, you just felt like you were with your people. Like people understood when you would sit around and talk about killing people off. They didn't think you were crazy.
Right. They get you.
Right. So now that we have the option, and that was really one of the great things that came out of the pandemic, was more virtual meetings and being able to meet with people online and stuff like that. And so you were able to have community. I have people in my community from Spain, from all over the world, all over the country. And that's just so cool to be able to have that. It's not, I mean, I grew up having local writers groups. I grew up as a writer doing that, but being able to have friends all over the country is super, super fun. And before we forget, I have a new mug that I have to show you.
Of course you do. Is it a birthday mug?
No, no, it's my colors, right? It says California. I picked it up on my trip last week. It looks like one of those metal camping mugs, but it's ceramic. It's really heavy, actually. It's really heavy. But you know how we were talking about how, what side do you hold it? This does have it on both sides. So
it's for the lefty and the righty.
Either way, it's good. So I was very happy about that. So I had to share.
Whenever we create a mug, Jen, we are going to have to put on both sides.
Yes, I was actually thinking that.
I know, because for the lefty and the righty, or at least a unique message on both sides, like something that feels of value both to the person drinking it and the person or the virtual
across the table from you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm playing with my Prey mug again this morning.
I like it.
This is no joke. It's my favorite. I love how it is not normal. Like you see how
yes, I love it.
And I
Love
just,
that.
it falls in my hands. And oh, hey, Amy Grubb is watching. She said
Hey,
she
Amy.
saw us pop up in her notifications. Want to say hey, hey,
Good to
Amy.
see
It
you.
is good to see you. It's totally good to see you. So I needed some caffeine this morning. I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
I needed that. But no, wait, we were just talking about this community, and I want to pull. Hold on, I wanted to pull my book up because it actually goes in alignment with what we are talking about today on how do you thank your community.
Right.
And the topic for today of our discussion is dedications and acknowledgements in the book.
Yes.
And and so Jen, I just before we dive in, I want to get your take on this because I have noticed this is a very like people don't really always know the difference between the two. They also
Right.
don't know where to put them. And
Yes.
I want to talk about both of those, but I want to get your take on it because I'm curious if even you and I have the same.
Well, so interesting. Last night I started a new book. It's a fiction book by an author that I love. And I always go, if you it's a Kindle version. So, it'll open you up to chapter 1. And I go up and I go to the cover and I like to read the front map. I mean, I read a book literally cover to cover. I don't care if it's electronic. I want to read every bit of it all the way through. I just want to, I like to know all of the pieces. And I particularly looked at the dedication that she did at the beginning. And she did something that's a little bit different. She did 2. And sometimes people do that, right? So, and I was trying to think of how you would characterize it. And, usually a dedication is more emotional. It's the heart, right? So, I've dedicated a story to my grandma because there was a grandmother figure in it that reminded me of her. And so I dedicated it to her. I dedicated a story to my grandpa because it was about the West and cowboys and all, it was just stuff he loved. He was a big, Louis L'Amour, John Wayne fan, loved old Westerns, was born in Texas. And so it just fit him, and so those are just, it's an emotional connection. It's the heart of it. Now, in this particular book that I was reading, she had one of those, but then she also had one to 2 people that had inspired the story. And she had heard their stories and that inspired her to write this particular book. And so sometimes you have that too. But I'd say the dedication is much more an emotional connection. Somebody that inspired you, that encouraged you. They may not have even read the book. They may not even be alive anymore. Some people just dedicate it. I've seen it to their readers. So it's just kind of an emotional connection. Whereas acknowledgements are the practical help that you got in the book. So I had finished a book, the previous, and her acknowledgements, it was a first book by an author. And she had a lot of acknowledgements because she'd had a lot of writing groups and a lot of support and a lot of workshopping and all these kinds of things. And I was just amazed she was able to remember all the people who had helped her at various levels on her book. Right. And so acknowledgements, it would be, you could put in your critique partners, a lot of times editors, if you did research, people that helped you out with the research, anything that was just practical help that went into the book. That's sort of the difference. So I kind of, make the difference between the practical and the emotional between the two. I don't know. How is that different or similar to what you would do?
So similar. So similar. To me, the dedication is like a pithy, like one pager. Like, please don't go past the one page. It is like you said, it's what inspired you? Who do you want to dedicate this message to somebody or a group of somebody's?
Yeah.
I've seen people do it as simple as to my mom.
Yes.
And as more in depth, I was actually just looking at what I did for book number 1 on me, just to give an idea. It was this is what I wrote for my dedication. So it was 2 paragraphs. That's it.
Yeah.
It says, this book is dedicated to those who believe in others who may not believe in themselves, to those who help build confidence and encourage others to find their voice, no matter how hard it is to find, to those who have a story that needs to be heard, but who may be too scared to share, to the lives that are touched by those doing good in this world in a way that may never be known, To each of you, this book is dedicated to your continued perseverance, your abundant compassion, and your consistent kindness. May your stories be told, or may more stories be told, more voices be found, and more faith instilled as together we all learn to live a life in perspective. So it was a message to the reader, but it also, for me, that dedication also prepared them that we're about to talk about some things that you may not know. So I didn't, in my dedication, do that, but in my acknowledgements, which are in the back of the book, I have, let me look at page 2.
Yes, and I would say, you bring up a good point that really acknowledgement should be in the back. Sometimes people do put them in the front, and I would say don't do that. The reader doesn't know who any of these people are. It's going to slow down getting into the reading experience. If you do the look inside, it just takes up part of that. Yep. Save it for the end after they've experienced the book, and then they might be curious who influenced your book, how did it happen, what all that. So definitely save that for back matter.
So that was what I was going to acknowledge in the acknowledgements. No pun intended, but kind of. I've worked with many publishers, and there isn't a consistent requirement in the process, and yet any author that I get the chance to weigh in and give some insights on, I always say, whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't stand in the way from the reader getting to the meat of the problem, you should eliminate. So for instance, we're not talking about introductions, but I'll acknowledge it. And especially in a nonfiction book, if you have an introduction, totally fine. Don't call it an introduction, call it something else, because the concept of an introduction, people might gloss over. If they see acknowledgements in the beginning, it just stands in the way from their getting to the meat. So if an introduction is a part of the meat, great. Don't call it that. Let them think that it's realize it's a part of the story. But the acknowledgements are such a meaningful marketing tool because it does allow you to outline all the people that has been a part of your process, if you remember them, or at least groups of people. And I love taking the space to do that because and I say it's marketable because if somebody's name is in your acknowledgements, now you get the opportunity when the book comes out to tell them. And it might encourage them to realize the value they had in bringing the book coming to life, and it might help you promote it. Another thing I like to say, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Jen, is from a marketing perspective, when you get your first books in-house, like the first stack of books that you buy, don't open them without having someone videoing you, because you're gonna be emotional, or not emotional, but it's still a very tender moment. But I always encourage authors to open your book, turn to the acknowledgements, and if you have a launch team or not, you can pick. But if you have a launch team, read the acknowledgements live on video, do a Facebook. I
love that.
You're now calling out all these amazing people, but you're doing it in a meaningful way. Don't expect that the reader will ever do it. Most people aren't like you and I, Jen. I read cover to cover too, because I think it's interesting, but for some readers, they don't even care and they're not going to read it. So it's really valuable, a big, massive thank you. You literally, author out there, you are paying for those pages, or the publishers for those pages to be in the book. You are making a financial commitment to have them in it. So it means it matters. So use that and share it.
I love that. That's such a great way to say thank you. People love seeing their name in print because most people don't get to do that. I remember the first time I walked into a bookstore and I pulled one of my friend's books off the shelves and I saw my name in there in the acknowledgements. I was like with the people, look, my name's in this book. So cool. People love that. And I always tell people in the fiction world, what's really fun, a fun way to get your readers involved is to ask them to name pets, to name characters, to help with that. And then you put them in the acknowledgements. And like you said, that just means the world to them. I love the idea of reading that live in a video, or whatever you do with how you thank people. If you do it at Facebook Live, or you have a private video for your launch team, it's just a fun way to say kind of a public acknowledgement. Thank you for contributing to the creative process. And even in the nonfiction world, that is a great way to do it. I usually send copies of books when people that have helped me with research. I send copies of the books to them and with a thank you note. And you never know. But I figure people find that exciting. Hey,
They
I was
know
in this,
somebody.
right? Yeah.
They do. So
So
I always believe, I always believe in coming from a place of good. And I think that's important when I acknowledge that I'm a book marketer, because I think the word marketing has this tendency to not feel like you come from a place of good. That it's
right,
always like, what can I do to sell a book or promote or build my business, whatever. And those, of course, to me are like value adds on the back end of what marketing can do. But if you always come from a place of good and you're always sharing value, that will happen. So I feel like I have to contextually say that with what
right.
I'm about to say, because I have another thing I'm going to add. And if it doesn't come from a place of good, it could come across kind of pushy or whatever. But if you record that video, and let's say you record it and it got like 20 people you've highlighted, and let's say you decide to share it as a part of your kind of your opening book promotion, make sure you tag those people. And here's
Yes.
why. So let's say my next book, I write about that, and Jen, you're in there, okay? So I acknowledge you, and I record the video. If I just write in LinkedIn, hey, look at this video, and I'm so excited, so emotional for me to read this, and I just want to thank people, blah, 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 right? Like whatever social content. And then I say, Jen, you were great. If I don't tag you, I'm missing an opportunity. If I tag you,
Right.
that post will go to your people too.
Yes.
I'm coming from a place of good when I say that, but it
Yeah.
extends your reach. So if you've got 50 people or 20 people or 5, I don't even care. If you tag them, it will make sure that they see it, because
Yes.
social media is a bit noisy. It will
Right.
make sure
You don't always see it. Yes.
but it'll also make sure other people see it too, and that's
Yes.
book promotion.
And I think that's exciting. If you
It is
see one of
exciting.
your friends tagged in something where they're being celebrated, like you're excited for them. You want to find out about that. Like that's really cool. And so I think that's a fun thing. I think you're right. Most people do come from a place of good. And I like to think of marketing, anyways, as just letting people know things exist they might be interested in. How are
Yes.
they going to know otherwise if you don't,
Yes.
hey, it's out here. This really might be something you would like. This could be helpful to you. You might enjoy it. And they won't know about it any other way.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's kind of being like almost selfish if you keep it to
It
yourself.
is being selfish.
So you're putting good out there. If it's not your thing, then pass it on by, right? But
Well, I'm thinking
you
back
never know.
to the conference that I spoke at for you back in January. One of
Yes.
the things I shared with the group, and I'll share with those listening or now or later, is I want you to think about something you love getting. Okay. So like, for instance, I think I may have shared my most favorite bath bombs are through Lush. Okay. Love
Yes.
Lush, Lush, Lush. If you've not experienced a Lush bath bomb experience or everything, I have not everything with Lush. I've not found anything I don't like. You're missing out. Go buy yourself one right now.
Mm-hmm.
But once a year, they offer not free. I would be all up on that. They offer a massive discount, like 50% off.
Right.
I think it's the day after Christmas of all of their holiday stuff.
Oh,
And
fun.
yes, but you have to know about. You don't only
Right.
know about it if you're on their email list. So
Right.
they market that. That is really one of the only things I get from them. If I didn't get their emails, or if they didn't do Facebook ads to target me, like I would be mad, because I only get one day a year to get it.
Right. Yeah.
When it is something of value, and when those of you all listening where marketing feels icky, if it's something of value, it is not icky when the people want and need it. So don't look at like your book, your message, what you're doing as if you think it's icky, then you're just not your target audience. And that's okay. You don't have to be your target audience.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be icky. It can be meaningful and valuable. And like you said, it's actually on the flip side, it can be very selfish if you aren't sharing something that could make a difference in the lives of others.
Right. It's true. And that you make a really great point. You are not always your target audience. That is a really hard thing for authors, or for really anybody, any provider sometimes, to realize. I'm not necessarily my target audience, and what I would do isn't necessarily what my target audience would do. It's a very interesting little mind shift to make there. So
I actually venture to say, Jen, most of us are not our target audience.
It could be very much true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
I was chatting this morning with the web developer that's a part of our team here at the Empower PR group, and I was sharing with her how blessed I am, or I realize I am, to understand marketing. Like
Mhm.
I would not invest in parts of marketing because I understand it and do it inherently, like me personally.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
also realize that there are things that other people provide that they do inherently that
Yes.
I would invest in because they are experts in it. So, you
Yes.
know, I want you to realize like I might not buy a book a book on marketing because I know marketing,
Right.
but I might buy a book that's on a niche within the marketing industry, or I might
Mhm.
buy a book on leadership, or I might buy a book on HR. And that might
Right.
be where you wouldn't buy a book because that's what you do. And so if
Right.
you realize you're likely not your target audience, that should help you realize that there's that group of people that you're being selfish if you're not sharing your info with.
Yeah. It's true. It's a really great way of looking at it. I love it.
Yay. Well, I think we've like made the decision, publishing industry. Dedications in the front, acknowledgements in the back.
Yes. Please.
Dedications are short and sweet. Acknowledgements, you can be a little bit longer if you need. And for
Mhm.
those authors who are watching or listening later, take a look at the books that you have on your bookshelf. And you'll start to notice this is extra, what I call extra marketing material that unfortunately not every author takes advantage of and really should.
Right. Yes.
And it's a very meaningful part of the process for everybody, you included.
Yes. I think sometimes by the
Mhm.
time you get done writing the book and you're through the edits and everything, you're just like, oh, I don't know, back matter, whatever, right? And you don't spend a lot of time thinking, I'm done. But
Don't.
spend some time thinking about it because it's a great opportunity to really be a blessing to the people who supported you on the journey
Yeah.
and to really expand your reach in a meaningful way, not a smarmy
Mhm.
way, not a weird way, but in a meaningful way. So,
Mhm.
yeah. I love
Absolutely.
that idea. I love that video idea. That's fantastic.
Good news, Jen. You can go backwards and do it. Do
It's
it.
true, right?
Yes, do it
Yes.
with your previous stuff or pick a time in the year that's like think of November like as gratitude month, like maybe that throughout that month and you with
Ooh.
16 books, like every couple of days, you like pull out something of people who helped you along that journey.
Well, November will be my 6th anniversary in putting my own books out.
That's awesome.
And so I was thinking about what I want to do to celebrate. And I love the idea of going back and celebrating everybody who's helped me on that journey. So that's a great, great
I love it.
idea.
And
I
I
love
think
it.
I don't think, I know it will also sell books. So
And
it
since I'm a fact finder and not a quick start, it'll take me till November to get it set up.
Oh, friend, we're talking about the Colby assessment. If you've never done it, you should. But this
Great.
actually, Beyond a Page, is a beautiful blend of how
Yes.
when a fact finder and a quick start come together
Yes.
and we just do it. Like I was just like, we're
Yes.
doing it. And then Jen's
All
like,
right.
we're going to do it this way. And she did it's just beautiful. It's beautiful how the
Works
world
good.
ticks. Yes.
It works
Yes.
well together. You have lots of ideas. I'm happy to
You do
execute them.
too. You have tons
It
of ideas.
just I have a lot of ideas. I like to explain it like planes lining up for a landing. Like you have to take your turn, get in line. Like you might be 5 miles out. I'll get you in November.
Oh my gosh. Here's whenever we create our video, Jen, here we need to talk about
Yes.
the plane because I build the plane while we're flying it. And
Yes.
while we're flying the plane, I'm putting it all together. And then
Yeah.
you are preparing for the landings
Right.
along
Yes.
the way. That's the
Yes.
beautiful way of acknowledging.
September. We'll do our video in
Yes,
September
we
when we get
are.
together in
Yes,
person.
we are. I know. And we'll have to be doing these live too when we're together so that everyone can see us.
Yes.
Right. It'll
That
be
would be
so
fun.
fun.
That would be
So
fun.
I wanted to share the book for this week. I have been spending a lot of time not in books that are published, but in books that are in the process of being published.
Right.
And there is a author that I've been working with here recently. She's a part of the Empowered Writer program that the Empowered PR Group offers, and it helps make sure that you write a marketable book. That is so important. I know, Jen, you know this. It's one thing to like write a book, but if you want to sell the book, if you want the book to help you grow a business, if you want to use the book for other things, it needs to be marketable. And there's nothing worse than an author and I working together and I'm too late to the game and I can't help them fix some of the marketable elements. So this program helps with that. So there's an author and I'm going to share her name, but I'm not going to give too much details because she's still in the works of her book. But Elizabeth Swan and I have been working together and helping her build this book that has been like beautiful, many year in the making, but she is an artist. She might not consider herself an artist the way I do, but she has a gift.
Mm.
And the gift is beautifully constructing these simple graphics to express a message and do it in a way that makes you think. And she does it
I
in
love it.
like almost like it's line art. Okay. So,
Mm.
and so I have had the chance. I'm one of the maybe a handful, few people so far who've had the chance to read the book as she has it right now in its entirety. And the book is in the process of kind of marinating and growing. And I can't wait for the book to come to life for her. But one of the chapters that she wrote, it's a leadership book, by the way,
Nice.
problem solving leaderships and all that stuff. But one of the chapters she wrote is actually a freedom, like a permission that she gives people. And the chapter is called "You Can Write in Your Books." Okay, so I want to show. Let's see if I could show this beautiful graphic.
Oh, that's so cool!
Right?
I love it.
And so,
Yes.
so I pulled it up because I wanted to share that, I was able to do a deep dive developmental edit with her in this. But when I got to this chapter, I like giggled and loved and laughed on this concept and this permission that she gives leaders and really all of us is that you can write in a book. It feels a bit sacrilegious in my world. Like I can't do that. Like I don't want to do. But I realize if you don't highlight or you don't take notes in a book, then the more you read, the more you forget about.
I know this one I have marked up
all up in
it. Yes.
It just means you've loved on it, right?
Yes.
And
I wrote something in the back. I don't even know what that note means. I
I
found a note. I'm like, I don't even know what that note means, but okay. I love it. This is why I buy nonfiction. I know I'm going to mark up nonfiction. And by the way, Newsletter Ninja, I recommend this book. I buy nonfiction in paper so I can mark it up. I dislike marking things in the Kindle. I know you can, doesn't work with my brain. Fiction, I don't mark up fiction, so I'm totally fine with fiction in the Kindle. Yes. But nonfiction, that's the way to go, which is why I have a whole stack of books sitting here I need to get.
I'm still learning. Like when I read this chapter, I told Elizabeth later, I'm like, thank you for that permission. Because I struggle a bit, and her reasoning for it and how it fits with her whole book is also as a problem-solving leader. What can you be doing to remember why you're doing what you're doing? And that there was a part of the book that you loved, and then it's been a while, and something might trigger. You could go
exactly. It's like I knew there was something in that book, but I can't remember what. So I'm gonna flip through till I see my notes. Then I'm gonna be like, yes. Now someone. I have to do this. This is a great idea. They got the larger sticky notes and they put them in the back cover of every book with the notes, the highlights of the things they remembered. So they could just flip through. You can even put page numbers on it, like a little index. And I thought, that's fabulous. That's fabulous.
That is fabulous. I also have to say, Jen, as we're talking about this, and I know that both of us are Christians, so we can say it. I was like raised, you do not write in your Bible. And I bought a Bible when my book came out from the bookstore, one of the bookstores that has my book in it. And it is a journaling Bible, but I just used the color. Well, now I take it to church every weekend, and girl, I'm all up in writing that. Like all of
it. This is one of those that's meant to be written in.
Yes.
Wherever it is, right? There's got the very wide margins on that, and then it's got these really pretty doodles. But I actually was raised in a tradition where we could, and we're supposed to write in our Bibles. So my problem was when the cover fell off, and I switched to a different version. I'm like, so now I have like them both sitting here because I've got to flip through my old notes.
That's awesome. Well, and in that tune, when my grandmother, which is the woman that I write a lot about in Color Today Pretty, when she passed away, one of the most coveted things in her very humble home was her Bible. And my aunt, who was the youngest of the three sisters, the three daughters of my grandmother, she got the Bible. And my aunt passed away a couple of years ago with breast cancer. And my mom now has the Bible. I share this because I actually think it's relevant to, the whole message of today is that when my mom and my aunts flip through it, what they now notice is my grandmother wrote little notes to them.
Oh,
And it
that's
would
such a
say,
treasure.
I know it makes me sad thinking about it,
Yeah.
but I realized how much I was missing of providing my
Mm,
kids in the future thoughts that I have about different parts of the scripture,
yeah.
of the word. And so now I'm like excited to fill this one up, and I'll just keep doing them.
Hmm.
But I see
Yes.
that too as dedications and acknowledgments
Yes.
in that. And I want you all listening today to see that as you're writing notes in any book, what you're doing is you're imparting to future generations, or if you pass the
Yes.
book down to others, even if it's not your own book, it's almost like you're creating your own form of acknowledgement or dedication in that.
Yes. Because you're interacting with the text, your thoughts, your ideas, what's important to you, and you're leaving that to pass on. I love it when I check out a book from the library or buy a used book and there's notes in it. I love that. I think that's so fun.
I
What
know that
other
is
people have
fun.
thought. And it is. It's like you get to be inside the mind of another reader. We get that in the book. We get to be in the mind of the author.
Yeah.
And that is where the acknowledgments do help bring in and help readers realize it really does take more than one person to create a book. And that's where the acknowledgments can really
It
shine with
does.
that. So
It
it's such
does.
a fun process. I love the interactivity
Yeah.
really of books. I mean, you wouldn't think of that, but they really are very, very interactive. And I think
I
that's one
love,
of the
oh
best
my God.
parts.
Well, of course, we both love books because they're powerful.
Yes.
So next month, we are talking about Amazon, and we're going deep
Yes.
into the Amazon platform, which, and uncovering things that authors may or may not know on how to use Amazon to their benefit. Listen,
Yes.
it's the book monopoly out there. Like, let's just get over the word Amazon. If you like Barnes and Noble, or Borders was always my favorite, but Amazon's
Hmm.
where people buy books now. That's just, it
It
is.
is.
And so we want to empower you on how to do that. So Jen, you do our little spiel. What about books and being empowering?
Well, authors, your words have power, your message has power, and we invite you to take that message to the page and beyond with us every week right here.
Can't wait to see you next week. Happy
Yes.
belated birthday, my friend.
Thank you.